The following program is an original production of WYCC PBS Chicago.
A cell phone can be a useful safety tool for teenagers, but also a dangerous one. Why are some minors facing serious legal consequences for using a mobile device? That's tonight on In the Loop. Good evening, everyone. I'm Lauren Cohn. Welcome to tonight's edition of In the Loop. Having a cell phone is common for most teens in today's digital age, but some of the information they are sharing is alarming to parents, school officials, and law enforcement. Tonight, we look at teens, tech, and sex on In the Loop. Everywhere you turn, people are on their cell phones, especially teens. But they're not just checking in and making plans, they are sexting, a term defined as sending and receiving sexually explicit messages and images. Sexting has become so common, Illinois teens have faced legal consequences. Within the past 3 years, there have been a number of high-profile sexting cases that have rocked local communities. In 2015, 4 students at Joliet Central High School were charged with child pornography after posting a sex video on the popular social media site Twitter. That same year at Ridgewood High School in Norridge, 4 teens were arrested after 2 female students shared nude photos of themselves with their male classmates, who distributed them to others.
Most of the statistics that I've read when researching it indicate that 1 in 5 kids participates in some form of sexting, and that's a really shocking statistic.
Mark Hagler, clinical director at Community Youth Network in North Suburban Grayslake, provides court-ordered counseling to teens involved in sexting incidents.
They don't even realize that if they're capturing something, nudity, of themselves or somebody else, and that person's below 18, that now you've entered into child pornography range.
While sexting can be a serious crime, Will County State's Attorney James Glasgow says first-time offenders appearing in juvenile court are typically charged with misdemeanors and ordered to seek counseling and court supervision.
Those criminal laws that are on the books are going to stay, but we don't want to criminalize these juveniles who are experimenting on the internet and with their phones. Because if you're a registered sex offender for the rest of your life, you basically are done.
The Will County State's Attorney's Office has a team of experts who work with schools to educate kids on the dangers of sexting. They say the key is prevention, not criminal prosecution.
Children today have a much different attitude towards relationships and sex because they've been exposed to so much at a young age. But it doesn't change the fact that they need to be more mature, have more life experiences before they venture into that area.
That area now includes popular video and instant messaging apps like Snapchat, Kik, and Whisper, which make it even easier for teens to distribute sexually explicit images through their phones. Some of them are even using vault apps designed to hide content from onlookers. Sarah Buchek is a lawyer for the Illinois Association of School Administrators and works as an advisor to schools facing sexting cases. She says schools must have up-to-date policies and educate students on the risks of sexting.
I think that it's much more widespread than we would like, but I think that with the enhancement and the engagement of school districts in being proactive, I think we will eventually see this become something where students have a better grasp of what it is.
We spoke to a group of teens who say sexting has become the norm.
I think adults do kind of make too much out of it because for us it's common, but for adults it's like because they're older and like things like that didn't happen when they were young.
We'll hear more of our discussion with 4 local teens about sexting later on in the show. Now let's welcome tonight's guests. They are attorney Matthew Gebhardt, Courtney Pegram, founder and president of Bulldog Solution, and Luciano Medin, coordinator of male programs for Options for Youth. Welcome. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
1 in 5 teens are sexting, but some experts would say it's more than that. Matthew, how concerned should we be?
I think we should be very concerned. these types of activities are going to have long-lasting effects on young people that frankly aren't equipped to think about the long-term consequences of simply sending a text message.
Courtney, what do you observe? Do you see the most with young people that you work with every day?
They don't see the consequence of what they're doing. They need more to see like the long-term effects. So it's just a snap. It's a quick picture. It's an emotional reaction. It's them exploring themselves and their bodies.
Do you see it though as all teens are doing it? It's not 1 in 5?
I think there's more, but it's less reported.
What about you, Lou? Do you agree?
Oh yeah, very much so. You can ask any kid, they'll tell you, no, we don't do it. Reality, they do. Or a good portion of their friends do. In any situation that they get themselves into. I don't know a person doing that. I don't know a person's doing that. They do, they just don't want to admit to it.
How aware then would you say, Matthew, that parents are?
Unbelievably unaware, Lauren. Parents do, it's the not in my backyard syndrome. My kid would never do that. My kid's not sexting. My kid uses his phone only to call me to get a ride home from school or extracurricular activities. Parents really need to keep a closer look on their children's activities with their cell phone, with their Twitter accounts, and all social media.
It's always like you said, it's not my child, and I've heard that 100 billion times. My kid doesn't do this, my kid doesn't do that, my child's a good kid. That might be very true, but they're still kids, and kids still do goofy things, and we, as parents, sometimes just chalk it up, it's not that big of a deal for the little stuff, not realizing they're doing much more serious things.
Well, yeah, so to add on, it's what they're doing is we don't understand the apps out there, we don't understand what kids are doing, and then how there's 2 reasons why they might be sexting. One would be for entering a relationship, exploring, and the other one would be peer pressure. So with the access technology, less parent supervision, it's more easy to go out there on the web and explore.
Well, in doing this piece, we also found so many more apps. I hadn't heard of half of them, and parents probably haven't heard of half of them. And the whole idea of this app that covers it up, right? The Vault app.
Yeah.
Yes.
You have experience with that, Lou, in the schools?
I've seen it a bunch of times. It's you have 2 calculators on your phone. What's going on? They can hide whatever they want, and like was said earlier, most parents, here's the phone. Call me if you need something. I gotta go do what I gotta do. And kids talk to their friends, they hear what they hear, they get all this information from the friends about these other things that they can do on their phone, and there's the Pandora's box opened.
And are they not thinking, Matt, when they see, okay, Snapchat, typically you post a picture on Snapchat, it's gone in 10 seconds, but in reality, it's out there forever.
Children can't understand that. It's not real to them. They take a quick picture, they send it somewhere, it goes out there in the web, and it's gone, never to be thought of again. They don't realize that anyone who comes into contact with that picture, whether it's the intended recipient or any number of millions, literally millions of people, can grab that app, they can do a screenshot, they can download it, they can re-upload it to their social media, and that will be on the internet forever.
Part of the issue is that technology is so advanced, and we have more things that come out every day. Are we as adults or our generation making too much of this?
I would say no. I think it's about education, prevention, but it's also understanding what is technology, what can we do out there, and how can we understand youth better. It's saying not doing it, it's not going to stop them.
Yeah.
But it's educating them. I'm like, this is what's going to happen if you do share pictures, if you do take pictures of yourself, and then having them come up with solutions and ideas to kind of explore that topic.
We're seeing these headlines in schools every day, like the 2 examples we just showed in the story of teens getting in trouble. And something happened recently where
Yes,
you were?
at one of the schools that I work at, a young gentleman asked his girlfriend, send me a picture. And she sent it on his Facebook Messenger, which you would figure is nobody has access to it. You have to have my login to get in. Another girl had his login and took the picture and distributed it to other people in the school. You're breaking so many things just by even hacking into somebody else's account. Not to mention you're sending out this picture. This happened last week. A fight almost broke out. Luckily, the school intervened very quickly, stopped it, got everybody who received it and did what they had to do. But something that you would figure is very innocent, that would probably be a very private situation because it's on Facebook Messenger. No, it went out.
Well, and then you know, one kid gets in trouble, right? What happened to the kids in this situation?
Well, what for me, which was kind of frustrating, the young lady who was the victim is going to be transferring out of the school. The one who hacked the picture is suspended.
So it's interesting because if, let's say I'm an individual and I send something to my boyfriend, I'm a teen and I send it to my boyfriend, there are some that would label me as the victim and the offender in that case because I started and I sent it. Am I the victim or am I the victim and the offender, Courtney?
I think we're still kind of navigating what we should do because there's a difference between you sharing your picture with someone you're in a relationship with the intent to, explore different avenues of the relationship, and then there's distribution. So the issue with distribution is if I have the intent to harm and share this picture with everyone, I think there should be consequences for that. But I think there should be lessons and re-education when you're just sending a picture to a boyfriend or a girlfriend. Because, teens don't understand that, you might not be with this person forever. And if you have a bad breakup and they have some nude pictures of you, they're more likely to share them like in spite and revenge. So there's a lot of undisclosed and unidentified items that we're trying to figure out. It's pretty gray right now.
Well, we sat down with 4 high school students to discuss sexting, and they shared with us personal stories on why teens sext, the consequences, and what parents can do to help prevent sexting. Is it just normal, part of the norm that teens sext?
I would say it's pretty normal. Like being teenagers and just texting on a normal, we're just comfortable with the way we just text. So the people who do that, it can lead up to that, and it seems as if nothing big has happened. But to adults who are older than us and they see that from the youth, they might have a different perspective on it.
Honestly, I would say yes, because some people see it as a different point of view. Like, it's different levels of sexting. It could be just as simple as a conversation, or it could be something as high as pictures. So it depends on how you look at it or what's going on in the conversation.
So what, Diamond, would be the age then that this all starts at? It's younger and younger?
I would say about junior high and up. So not too young, but not too old. Like, I would say if you're old enough to understand about what sexual contact is and you have a phone, then starting there.
And is it true it's specific times of the day?
They probably don't do it just send it at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, but more vivid times are late at night when they know their parents sleep or they know nobody's really watching them.
You wouldn't do it in a public place where if you're in school or something.
Who sexts more, boys or girls? Anybody want to take that one?
I'd say girls. In all honesty, I'd say girls because from all the exposures I've seen, it's mostly females, not men.
I think girls are easier to persuade than a boy is.
It's a lot of people out there that have a silver tongue or can manipulate people to where they can talk until that person can get whatever they want.
What's interesting about what you all are saying is that it happens and we know it's the norm and you sort of want to shrug it off, but there are legal implications if you send a nude photo, also if you open it and then share it. So is that a deterrent, or?
If you don't get caught doing it, then people, okay, well, it's okay to do it, so I'll just keep doing it. And then once they get caught, it's kind of like a wake-up call, and I think people will stop doing it. But until then, it's just going to continue to go on.
I think most teens don't think as far as they might get caught too, because their privacy on their phones and on social media is you have to. There's so many privacy locks on social media like Instagram. You can turn your page into privacy so most people can't see it.
So should they change maybe the curriculum in school from when I went to school, considering the technology has changed? Changing sex ed instead of it being maybe about the anatomy, should they be talking about this in school?
I really don't think it would change the situation because social media, you're going to find out about it either way.
Some people take education into 2 different ways. Some people might look at it and say, oh yeah, would be a great curriculum because it's teaching them not to do it. But still, people are going to do it because they're anarchy or they might not want to follow rules.
So, Robert, as a parent, if I'm worried and I want to stay on top of this, what do I do?
I'd say just like sit your son or daughter down and then have like a serious talk with them and show them the consequences.
Totally. Communication is like the biggest key with issues like this, especially, and like just simply a phone. Like phones can be used for a lot, and especially when you get older, using social media, and like just having a frequent, consistently conversations with your kids is like the best thing to do to gain trust.
I agree with Jalen with being close with your parent because, like, usually when you're close with them and you're open, it's like another level of trust.
Very interesting to hear what this group of teenagers had to say. Very smart kids. Matthew, what's your initial reaction to what you heard?
The initial reaction is they know an awful lot about it, don't they? Their parents, I'm sure, have obviously talked to them. They're very well versed on the subject. They got into everything we already alluded to, some of the hidden apps, the times at when this occurs. I guess my real question would be, these are 4 kids who have not engaged in sexting activities, and yet they know chapter and verse about it, which really can show you how pervasive it is in this age group right now.
Mm-hmm. And that also, for me, watching that, it was very interesting. Like you said, they know how many more? 4 kids out of thousands, and we assume they don't, but then so many others are doing it. And I think what was very interesting is that, well, I'm not going to get caught. And I think that's one of the underlying things for most kids. It's not going to happen to me. I won't get in trouble. And then when it does, oh, I know somebody who did, but then it still doesn't seem to affect all the other kids who know that one child who got in trouble. Because it's not going to happen to me next.
So is that's the mindset of the young? We never think it's going to happen to us? We all have that at some facet in our lives?
So I would say that some do, and then some do it for attention. So they actually put themselves out on social media because they want to show how they look good, they look sexy, and they pose and they do these things, and they don't understand the consequences, that they expose themselves to cyberbullying, to harassment, to stalking. So
body shaming.
Yeah, body shaming. So a lot of things comes into play that they like, oh, whatever, it's out there, like I'm proud of it, but if there's 1 million people commenting and it goes viral, then what do you do with all those negative comments? That's shaming.
But they see it to a degree as a bit of fame. I mean, you have these reality stars all because they posted a picture and now they have all this attention. Well, I get the attention too. They don't.
Yeah.
Well,
Sure, the best thing that ever happened to Kim Kardashian's career was the release of a porno tape. I mean, really, no one knew who Kim Kardashian was.
Yeah.
A porno tape comes out and she's famous. She's worth hundreds of millions of dollars now.
and the rest of her family.
Absolutely. So kids don't realize that there are consequences to these actions, and the only consequences that they actually see are people like Kim Kardashian, who's laughing at us all the way to the bank.
Well, so then what about the laws on the books, though? Because what's interesting is Illinois is more lenient than perhaps other states. And I know you all have examples of this, whereas in many cases, if they're a first-time offender, it's go to counseling, get an education, whereas other places say, nope, you're going to become a sex offender right away.
Sure.
How should the legal system work with this, especially when technology is moving so fast, Matt?
Well, the important distinction to remember, too, for this conversation is that we're going to talk about consensual activity between 2 parties. We're not going to get into situations where a third party comes in or one of those parties disseminates that information to a wide range of people. So the really important thing is to focus on the 2 willing participants in the activity, if you will. And we really have to educate them on the consequences of this kind of activity, whether it be reputation, whether it be future jobs, employment, the embarrassment, body shaming, things of that nature. It really has to be focused, I think, on education. The court system is a wonderful tool for certain things. However, I think it is ill-equipped to handle this kind of situation with young people.
So then how do the schools court handle it? Do you suspend? Do you transfer? Do you kick out of school?
So it's dependent on the school and the district. I know a lot of schools that handle it in-house, you know what I mean? And they take their matters, and according to their policy, they would address the situation of suspension, re-education, counseling. And I think that's better, actually, that the schools take care of it if they need to, versus it making it out to the media, because then it can get into the hands of the courts, and that can have some serious repercussion for the kid's future.
Well, would you say that a second-time offender should face felony charges?
Personally, yes. Because here you are, you made a mistake. When you repeat it, does it still become a mistake? No, you're doing this again and again. I do agree there should be an initial line of like, okay, you made a mistake, you're young. After you cross that line, there should be so much more serious consequences.
What about what the teen said, that girls perhaps do it more than boys, initiate it? You're shaking your head, Courtney, so you know plenty about this.
Yeah, I do. From work experience, I do, and then also what the research says is it's more prone that girls will expose themselves under peer pressure or under what they call relationship currency, where they want to share with the person, the boyfriend or girlfriend that they're dating. So they use these pictures as relationship currency back and forth.
Would you want to see in your kids' school a part of the curriculum, or is it separate? Is it about people going in and lecturing in schools and being part of a program, as opposed to it being when we had sex ed and changing it from what I said, anatomy, to what's going on today?
I think it has to be an all-encompassing effort. I think you need curriculum in the school. I think you need to have guest speakers come to the school. I think the parents have to be educated, frankly, on the issue.
The very first, the very first thing is, I feel, is the parents need to be educated first, before the students, because parents need to hear what the student's going to be taught. So that way they learn the same thing. Students are taught next, and the encouragement should be, all right, you both have the same information, you two need to talk now. And that's the most effective teaching tool. Parents, child, then together. You don't do both, because kids will typically shut down with their parent there. They're not going to say things.
Well, in theory, that model is great. In practice, it doesn't often apply.
It's very hard.
So it is. And thinking about how our brain operates too, is kids are more at risk. They're taking risks. They're risky behaviors. They're putting themselves out there. They're trying new things. They're working off their emotions. So if we can actually do curriculums and programs that are more interactive and increase their empathy. So instead of thinking, oh, Kim Kardashian, she was famous, but oh, look at this 16-year-old girl that was a cheerleader, and look how her life got destroyed.
Right.
And that could be me. Or look at, so they can see the correlation between them of this could happen to me.
Right.
We can't just tell kids this is bad. We have to explain to them why.
Well, which brings me to this. Will County State's Attorney James Glasgow has some advice for parents whose teens are growing up in this digital world.
We give talks on how to restrict your children on the internet, what different softwares are out there to block them, to let you monitor them. Those things are imperative in today's society. Just a hands-off, here's your computer and here's your phone and I'm not going to pay attention, that's a license for disaster. So that's the first thing that parents have to do. If you're going to provide that tremendous tool to your child, make sure that you can monitor it so they'll use it properly and reasonably.
So then, in looking for solutions, how as a parent do you show trust for your child, at the same time monitor? How would you monitor?
Well, for me, I have a 16-year-old son. And the one thing that I've always told my son, I'm your dad, I'm not your friend. And that might sound kind of harsh, but it's very true. So I need to see your phone. It's my phone. I pay the bills. You don't. I bought that phone.
Does that go over well, Lou?
My son, he doesn't like it, but he understands. Me and my son, we talk about a lot of stuff. He comes to me doing what I do in the population I work with teen parents. He knows I see a lot of different things. So he asks me a lot of questions. So we have that good communication. But I do have to lay down the law. I am dad. Let me see your phone. I need to see what's on there. And, here's my phone. Take a look. There has to be a bit of give and take. But the very first step is stop being your child's friend and be the parent. I think that's the very first step. And parents get the newest phones. Personally, I think a simple flip phone is all they need.
Would you agree with that, Matt, as a parent?
Sure. The number one thing parents can really do is educate themselves on what's going on out there. My son Sam is 7 years old, and I'm a technically proficient person. He knows more about apps than I do at this point. And sure, I have a job. I'm here this morning.
Are there two calculators on his phone?
No, not yet. No, not on his iPad either. But parents really have to become educated. They have to educate themselves. And it's hard with work and making school lunches. I understand that as we're all parents, but these are your kids, and you really have to get involved.
I think back when I was a kid, and VCRs. My mom and dad could never program a VCR. Luciano, yeah, can you all done. It's the same thing. Most parents, they get the phone. My mom's intimidated by her iPhone. My sister got her an iPhone, and she's like, I don't know what to do. So, you know, we had to sit down and kind of help her. But how many other parents just get the phone and just kind of like, okay, I'm done. You have a phone. Call me when you need something.
Well, Courtney, there has to be some trust with your kids. I mean, this is the fine line we all walk.
Yeah. So it's about developing like a verbal or mutual contract between parent and child and having the conversation of like, okay, so what is Instagram? You know, what is Ask FM? What is Kik? And then having them explain it to you and building that relationship and explaining that, you know, this is what will happen if you do this. So setting boundaries and expectations with your children is really important.
So do we put the software, there's software programs that you can put to monitor. Should all kids, all parents have the software that's out there?
I would say yes.
Yeah.
And to a certain age, because, you know, so the issue with like 11 and 12-year-olds that are sexting, you know, they don't know what they're doing. They might think it's just a game or they're just exploring, and not having the software, it can get them in really difficult situations and legal ramifications at 12.
Is there a website or a best place for parents to go to find out those options that you know of?
Yes, there is. So there's a few different options. It's called Frenity. Frenity is a great app for parents to explore as a first app for children because it's the parent-child together. They get to discover what social media is and what is to upload your picture, what is private versus public. That's a great, great app to use.
Well, the only objection I guess I would have to that, sure, the software I'm sure works great, but the first line of defense is still the interpersonal relationship with your son or daughter. And while these things can still be used as a tool and a very effective one, if that's your only means of communicating or monitoring the behavior of your child, there's a far bigger problem.
And too often parents, parents, adults everywhere are too busy on their phones and they're texting and working two jobs, and a lot of that communication doesn't occur the way it did when we were all young.
There's a lot of times we go out to eat and we put the phone down, and I've seen a bunch of families, all the kids and the parents are on their phones doing something, and you know, I go to my wife, wow, they're having a great conversation, aren't they? You know, we get immersed in it as well. And as a parent, we have to put that down, you know, and parent.
You know, and to add in, so I do this a lot of my trainings when I talk to parents is, you know, put a dock where everyone puts their phone at night, because it's often at night, kids, if they can't sleep, they're on their phone. Sure. So you're overtired, you're talking to your boyfriend and girlfriend, things get a little out of hand, and then goes the picture. But that wouldn't happen if the phone was docked.
That's a great idea. I hadn't thought about that. What a wonderful discussion. So much terrific information. Thank you all so much for being here today. And that wraps up this week's episode of In the Loop. And I would like to thank our guests, Matthew Gebhardt, Courtney Pegram, and Luciano Medellin. And to learn more about our guests and tonight's story on teens, tech, and sex, we invite you to log on to WYCC.org and link to In the Loop. Until next time, I'm Lauren Cohn. Thanks for joining us and have a good night.